Today's video is going to show a custom transmission tunnel for a 68 Chevelle, start to finish. Got it done in 2 days. Have fun. Thanks for watching. So here's my pattern making process kind of already underway. What I've done there is tape some cardboard on to a couple of pieces of thinner sheet metal that I've already kind of formed and screwed into the floor, with the kind of boundaries, if you will, of where I would like the new tunnel to go. I've got myself a little over 1 inch of clearance on the top, giving myself a little bit of extra width on the driver's side where that switch assembly gets put back on the side of the transmission. And then on the other side of it, you see there's a couple of tabs, a couple of tubing pipes coming out of the side. That's the transmission cooling lines out and return, and those need a little extra. Last time I just bent some steel up and kind of guesstimated, and I'm going to be a little bit more methodical about it this time. The last one ended up with a lot of sight welding in the car here, and trying to avoid that this time, trying to bend it up ahead of time so that it's a little bit more of a straightforward weld in. So there we are, more to come. Okay, so what we have here is my homemade, rather janky brake, and I have been bending this way too thick steel to make the first section of the tunnel. I'm going with the thicker steel because I like the shifter not to wobble on the tunnel, and I had it, so yeah. So here's the metal finish product here. Continuous weld, and gotta love a shop light in there. It really helps see things. So metal's all sealed up, like I said, continuous weld, and I'm going to use a seam sealer over the welds, just kind of as insurance. I know that it's closed up. I'm not really worried about that, but frankly, it will smooth everything out so that when the carpet goes in, if there's any imperfections, it won't telescope through. And it'll just look prettier. So I'm going to seam seal it, and then I'm going to prime it and paint it, and hold on for more. Good morning. So I am taking the engine and transmission out, hopefully for the last time, so that I can finish cleaning up the backside of the welded area for the new tunnel, and thought I would just do a step-by-step. The gloves. So I'm tired of walking into the frame rails, so I thought the gloves would help. That was the explanation there. Had a question on that. Also going to track what it takes to take the engine and transmission out. I've got them bolted in, kind of, sort of. 3 bolts from the transmission to the engine block, 1 on each side and 1 on top. I've already taken the top one out, and the engine mount pins, bolts, are in without being tightened, but they are sitting there. That is 1, and same on the other side, 2. So once I take the weight of the engine up, those slide out relatively easy. A little bit of coaxing with the backside of a hammer, tapping them out, as it were. So first step is to get under the car without hitting my head on the lift again, is the transmission. And that is the rear support, all lined up. Bolts are sitting there, not tightened. So hold on. Those of you with single piston transmission jacks know that it just took me 5 minutes to move the jack stand, or the jack, like 4 inches. They're inexpensive, they're effective, but boy are they slow to pump up. Okay, so bolts removed, transmission is still kind of sitting on the cross member, a couple jacks up. Love the bouncy camera, yeah. There we go. And here comes two hands. And the 15mm deep socket with a wobbly and an impact wrench is your friend. Second hand would have been nice to catch that. And then same thing on the other side. Okay, so the slick one-handed catch. Okay, so now the transmission is free of the engine block, and you see the little doodad there with the all thread. That is supporting the back end of the engine so that the engine doesn't drop down drastically and stress out the engine mounts. And I actually need to snug that up. Be right back. So this little contraption is to support the back end of the engine. Chain has got a couple of tabs on the end of it, and then it's bolted flush to the heads, so I still have room to the firewall without bolts that I need hanging out getting bent. And the idea here is to tighten that up so that the chain is taut, and then a couple of turns, take some of the weight up. Okay, so now the back end of the engine is supported, so when I pull the transmission out, engine will shift a little bit but won't drop dramatically. Okay, so transmission is freed up. Going to take a little bit of weight down off of it and see how far the engine goes. Take it down a little bit more. Pretty sure there's not a bolt in there. There we go. Nope. And there is no torque converter on here, so I'm not fighting that. Again, this was just for the purpose of getting the tunnel put together. And then there is the transmission down, and that is the inside of the tunnel that I welded yesterday. And just I'm going to cut off excess sheet metal, clean up the welds, seam seal it, prime it, and then paint it. So transmission and engine have to be out of the way. All right, next part, pretty straightforward. Get the engine out of the way. And again, all of this is so that I can just clean up that new transmission tunnel. Okay, so a little doohickey is supporting the back of the engine. As I start taking weight up, then I will take out the little doohickey. Out of the way so you don't pierce anything on the engine. Okay, so I just spent the last half minute looking for that hammer. Found it. Yay. There's one. And then And the bolts that you see sitting on top of the engine are the bolts for the engine stand, which are strategically placed there, ready to re-bolt on. And this time, no wobbly. Yay. And it's that easy. Again, no fenders, no internals to get in the way, fighting with the engine. But there we go. Okay, next project is to take the welding backside of the tunnel and get it all cleaned up. And I'll show a couple more shots of that. Thanks. Okay, ground up, sanded down, best I feel like making it, and cleaned, degreased, ready to prime and seam seal. All painted up, paint still wet, and there you go. Thanks for watching, and again, happy Easter.